Well, back again, everybody. Something technical went wrong. Don't know what happened there, but I seem to lose the stream completely. And I've just had to go ahead and restart it. And I'm not sure whether anybody can see me or not at the moment. Ah, yes, you can see me. Hi, Simon. Technical problems abode today in that my computer seems to keep switching itself off in order to probably do something like install some Windows updates. Hello, Benji. And hello, Simon. Thanks for joining me. It's just a little bit of an impromptu. Oh, hello, Nick Petronics. Maybe before I get started, we'll just wait for a few people to come in the room. What's the weather like where everybody is today? Today it's pretty good. Hi, Sam. It's pretty good here today, although it's a little bit, perhaps just a little bit too windy. Can I focus a bit better? Maybe that's slightly better. I think maybe I look better in softer focus anyway. I'm afraid that the cameras I'm using aren't particularly good. I'm just using a little webcam type camera, which is just stuck on top of the monitor. I'm not really planning on investing on a lot of camera equipment for these live streams because the whole purpose of them is just to have a chat and to hang out. I don't think I'm going to be doing a lot of detailed repairs in these videos or doing close-ups, and I don't really want to be doing hundreds of live streams anyway. I just thought now and again it might be nice just to hang out and have a chat like we are doing today. Oh, so Simon says it's warm and sunny where he is. Yeah, it's sunny here. The only problem with it is that it's just a little bit windy, which is kind of making it feel cooler than it is. And Benji says it's 19 degrees where he is. Yeah, I think it's probably about 19 degrees here as well. Right, well, I'm not sure what to start with on the unboxing front today. This is a little bit of an impromptu unboxing. Reason being is that, you buy stuff on Amazon and on eBay, and for me, it goes into the hallway. And it starts to build up all these boxes in the hallway to the point where my wife gets really, really annoyed with me and tells me that I've got to tidy up the place and move some boxes, because it gets to the point where you come downstairs, walk through the hallway, especially if you come down in the dark, and you end up tripping over boxes and going base over apex. And I think my missus has done that a couple of times in the morning, so I'm really in her bad books at the moment. So she said to me that I've got to move some of this stuff and do some unboxing. So we've got quite a few cardboard boxes to open today, which we can have a look at. Now, the other thing that we can have a look at if anybody's interested, I've also bought a new desoldering gun, which is this Heiko unit, which I bought as a replacement for my paste soldering iron. I bought a paste soldering iron, it's probably about 10 years ago now, because I do work on quite a lot of modern circuit boards at work. So I bought a modern paste soldering iron, desoldering station, and I've had that about 10 years now. I'm afraid it was never very good, even when it was brand new. It just doesn't seem to have a lot of suction to it, even though it was really quite an expensive desoldering station. So I bought one of these Heiko desoldering stations, which is relatively inexpensive. I'm not going to say it's cheap, because these desoldering stations aren't cheap by any means, but yeah, we've got one of them. I did also wonder if we should have a look at some of these very cheap and nasty capacitor sets that you can buy on Amazon. I was just intrigued to see if the values were anything like what they claim to be, although I suspect that the failure mode probably isn't the component values. It's probably that they just don't last as long as the better quality capacitors. But, I've got quite a lot of capacitors on the shelves here, on the component boxes that you can see. But sometimes it's nice to have a complete set. And if I run out of capacitors in the component bins here, it's just nice to have somewhere to go to. So I think this was about, what was the price of this? I think it was about £9 or £10, and I bought this on Amazon. And how many capacitor values do you get? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. So you get 24 different capacitor values, and I think it's just over £10. So that is something that we bought. But what's causing the main consternation in the household is these cardboard boxes. And I've actually got 2 huge cardboard boxes here. Now, this one, I can't actually even remember what's in it. So maybe we can open this box up together. It's going to be a surprise what's in here. And then there's another cardboard box behind it. And I've actually got the radio on top of that cardboard box, which kindly came from my friend and yours, Simon Spires, who sent me this Siemens radio, which is a Turf, TURF, and it's an RK84. But this is actually made by Siemens, and I haven't actually had the opportunity to put any batteries in this one yet, because it takes those great big C cells. I didn't have any C cells, so I haven't had to try that yet. So yeah, we've also got that maybe to have a look at. What else have we got to look at? Let's maybe just start by unboxing this. Let me just have a quick look in the chat to see what everybody's on with. Oh, hello Andy, nice of you to join us. Andy Tobin there. Benji's saying that he can't move for boxes as well. I kind of I can't believe how many cardboard boxes we've consumed in this lockdown period. I don't know if you've been the same, but we've been doing an awful lot of online shopping. I mean, pretty much me and the wife, we hadn't been out of the house for nearly a year. So everything that we were buying, we were getting shopping deliveries from Tesco's and Sainsbury's. I was buying stuff on Amazon, and I was also buying stuff on eBay as well, mainly Valve radios and stuff on eBay, but all the other household odds and sods, they were coming from Amazon. And it was actually quite amazing how much cardboard waste we'd actually built up. I think my wife spent the best part of a morning last week. She was cutting up cardboard boxes that we'd had in storage and flattening them. And we've got one of those cardboard bins outside, and well, we could have filled that cardboard bin about 4 times over. We just couldn't move for cardboard boxes. So yeah, because we're trying to get rid of some cardboard, I've been told to empty these boxes here. So yeah, Benji says he's got a skip down the road that he could fill. I could do with a skip here at home. Simon's saying those Chinese capacitors might be fine if they're heavily derated. Yeah, I do wonder if the Chinese capacitors are as bad as we might expect, or if they're actually okay. I think it might be George Christophe that said he's used quite a lot of the very cheap capacitors in some of the transistor radios that he restores. And I don't want to misquote him, but I think he said that he's never had any problems using the cheap Chinese capacitors. Has anybody actually had any problems with these cheap capacitors? I'm just wondering, you know, have they got a bad reputation? I know a lot of the stuff we buy from China isn't very good, but again, more or less everything is made in China now. Even I think the likes of Nichicon and Rubicon and all them kind of companies, they're all, and Panasonic, they're all manufacturing in China now. So I think it's more a question of quality control. Hello, Keith. Nice for you to join us there. Oh, we've got Harvey ZX840. Hello, Harvey. Nice to see you. Keith says he's got a garage full of cardboard. Yeah, it doesn't half mount up, and in some ways it seems such a waste that it does all go in the bin. I mean, hopefully as cardboard waste it gets recycled into new cardboard boxes, but I'm very cynical about all this recycling business. I've got a feeling that half the time you separate everything out into the separate bins, but by the time it goes to the refuse yards, all they do is they mix it all back up and then put it in landfill. I'm not convinced there's that much recycling goes on. Okay, so Average Joe, Sam says, shut up and what's in the box. So, okay, shall I open this box first? Just wondering if everything's been whited out a little bit by my bright overhead lights. Is it any better if I turn that off? Oh, that's probably worse, is it? Well, not great though, not great the contrast, is it, on this camera, unfortunately. Right, okay, let's open this first box, and I've got actually no idea what's in here because I bought it that long ago. Hello, George. Open up my pocket knife here. Okay, well, this radio seems as though it's been quite well packaged. I'm going to guess that it's a radio because that's mainly the things that I buy on eBay is radios. I'm afraid everything just fell onto the keyboard there, and about 500 windows just opened up on my screen here. Okay, so it definitely smells of old men, small dogs, possibly a Jack Russell. I definitely think there's maybe a whiff of Worthy's Originals there. And tobacco smoke, yes. I'm kind of thinking that I'm not going to be doing a lot of repairing today, so I'd like to try to keep you entertained and maybe keep you guessing as long as possible with some of these things. So maybe we can play Guess the Radio. It's starting to come back to me now what I've ordered because I recognise the shape of the box. But I'm kind of wondering if anybody else will guess what this radio is. So if any of you guess what this radio is, please put it in the comments. So at the moment it looks like we've got a black box. Well, it's nice to see that whoever sold this radio, at least they've done a good job of trying to wrap it up. So it must have about 10 meters of bubble wrap here. Well, it looks like I've got this radio upside down. Simon says it's a DAC 90A. Not quite that desperate, Simon. Maybe it would help if we turned it the right way up. So, any guesses? I'm not going to turn it around the right way around right away. So what can we see? We've got a number stamped on the chassis here, which unfortunately I think is just a serial number, which is 13-13446. We've got a distinct lack of mains transformerage going on. Hi Graham, nice to see you there. For everybody that's just joined us, we're not really doing any radio repair today. I've just been told that I had to unpack some cardboard boxes that were cluttering up the hallway. So basically, I'm just going through some of these boxes and doing a little bit of a live unboxing. I'm going to call it a forced unboxing because my wife said that if I didn't move these boxes, I would be in serious trouble. Is it a TRF? You know, I don't know, because actually I don't even know what radio this is myself yet. It's got a couple of stages to the tuning gang, so it may or may not be a TRF. I can just see we've got 2 stages here. I'm suspecting it's probably a superhet. That would probably give it away if we knew what the valve lineup was, wouldn't it? It could be oh right, I suppose we should count the valves, wouldn't we? 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 valves, so I'm going for it's probably a superhet. Anybody know? A Bush BA90. Can anybody verify that this, because actually I don't know what this is, because it hasn't got a back on it and it hasn't got any labels on it, but it's got the Christmas tree symbol, so it's definitely a Bush. Can anybody just put something up? I think Mark, what's that, Pirate Tech, Mark has said it's a Bush BA90. I don't know if he's right or not. Maybe we can have a look on my iPad if I just do a type in for a Bush BA90. That does ring a bell. Is anybody near a computer? Can you Google that, a Bush BA90? I'm just going to type it in on my iPad now. And I'm not getting anything coming up there for a Bush BA90. No, I'm not getting anything there for a BA90. Yeah, it's definitely a Bush, isn't it? And it's a battery set, but we're saying not a BA90. I think this has got some homemade parts to it. Now, I was thinking that this was originally part of the radio. I think this has been modified in some way. See this outer piece of wood here? Oh no, maybe I'm wrong. It looks like this. No, I'm still wondering if this is a modification. It doesn't look quite factory. So what we've got here, we've got a frame aerial. I'm wondering if somebody has added this frame aerial to the radio themselves. Can you see that? I can just about see that all the wires are running around the outside of the case, so it looks as though it's got a frame aerial, but the wooden blocks and the way this has been put together look quite crude. Graham's saying, and Simon's saying, a BP90. I think it said it looks like a mains only. No, I'm fairly sure this is a battery set just going off this connector here. So we're saying BP90. Let me just have a look at that on my iPad here, see if it looks the same. Bush. BP. Yes, I think we've got a winner. So it looks like it is a Bush BP90, which just according to the information, the picture I've got up there, it says it's a 1940s radio. Let's see if I can find any more information about that. Oh, okay. Let's have a look on the radio museum. Okay, so just going on to the radio museum website, it says that the Bush BP90 has oh, actually saying that. Yeah, I think it's correct. Let me turn it around so you can see the front of it. So I've just gone on to. Oh, we're not doing very well with the light in the camera, are we? But we've just gone on to the radio museum website there, and it's telling us that it's a Bush BA90, and it was manufactured between 1946 and 1949. It says it's a super heterodyne receiver with an IF of 465, and it does the broadcast bands, medium wave and long wave, and it requires a dry battery, a 90 volt battery, and a 1.5 volt grid bias battery. The power output was 0.15 watts, and being a Bush radio, in fact, where were Bush radios made? They were made in London somewhere, weren't they? Bush radios, I think. For some reason, I've got Murphy radios on my head at the moment because I was thinking about Welwyn Garden City earlier, which is where the Murphys were made. So it says it's made using a blue leather cloth covered wooden case. Although the early models were made in a black leather cloth. So this is I would call this a black leather cloth. So this must be an early one. Shepherd's Bush, yeah, of course it is, yeah, Shepherd's Bush. So apparently these cost £15 when they were new, and that was back in 1946. Again, I'm guessing £15 was quite a lot of money. Hi, David, nice to see you there. You just snuck in. So what's the value today of £15 in 1946? So it is described as being material, leather canvas, plastic, outer material. So it's got some kind of leather cloth on it. Although it looks almost more. To me, this doesn't look like a leather cloth. This looks as though it's some kind of crinkle paint, actually. But I'm kind of thinking it is applied directly to the wooden finish. Doesn't seem to be a cloth on it that I can see. Yeah, Simon's saying £15 would have been a lot. I would have thought it'd been more than £150, wouldn't it, Simon? £15 from 1946. The white in the background isn't helping. Okay. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of white in here. Just trying to see, that isn't white, that's actually brown. Does it help if I turn these old red lights off again? Is that better or worse with the overhead lights on or off? Can anybody tell? Is that better? Is that worse? Tell you what, I'll put you the overhead lights back on again. I kind of think it might be better with the lights on. Yeah, too much light. Okay. Graham's saying £642 better. Simon's saying better on. I have got a sheet of. I've got a blanket behind me. Maybe if I put a blanket over some of this equipment in the background, would that help? All my tweaking tools have just gone on the floor there. Yeah, I can't do anything about the camera exposure. It's just a cheap camera. There's no adjustments on it. It's just a webcam. So yeah, I'm not aware that there's any adjustments on these. Yeah, it's pretty bad, this camera, isn't it? Is there a software adjustment? I've got no idea. If there is a software adjustment, I've got no idea where it is. I've never installed any software for this camera. It just plugs in and it just works. Or not, as the case may be. Oh, hello, Tony. Tony's joined us. I hope you've all been watching Tony's videos. Tony Albus. I think Tony must be the happiest man on YouTube. Me and some of my friends were talking about Tony just the other night, and that when we watch his videos, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who gets quite excited as Tony does, because he sits there on his screen and watch Tony's videos, because you can tell when he's getting excited, because his little hands start going like this. He's just so excited to be showing you what he's showing you. And he's got some really great videos out there. So if any of you haven't subscribed to Tony's stuff, you should really go away and do that. Subscribe to Tony Albus, because he's got quite a mix of videos on different types of things. He's got quite a few on RF signal generators, and especially some on relatively low cost RF signal generators. I think from what I can tell, Tony wasn't really very impressed with any of the low cost signal generators that he's purchased in the past. I think he'd bought some quite low cost ones from China, and the first one I think that he bought, I think it blew up. It didn't work at all. I think it kind of went on fire as soon as he switched it on. I think the second one he bought worked, but really, really badly. So he's been doing quite a lot of experimenting with RF signal generators, because if you want to get into things like RF radio alignment, you really could do with, you really do need an RF signal generator. Or one that's relatively high frequency, so you can do IFs, and then you can also generate, a megahertz or so for the medium wave frequencies. So you can still buy a lot of second-hand RF signal generators. I think that's probably still the best thing to do, is to actually just go online and buy yourself something like an old Taylor signal generator, something like that. Maybe even something with valves in it. You don't need anything particularly good or expensive to be doing radio alignments. And if you couple that with maybe a fairly cheap signal generator, that's going to do everything you want. But as I say, Tony's been doing quite a few reviews of equipment on there, so it's worth having a look at his channel. Hi Barry, I can just see you've snuck in there. Nice to see you. Yeah, Tony says he's a very happy man. I think I want whatever you've been drinking, Tony, because you always seem to be super happy in all your videos. I can never be that happy. Drive the film shortwave. You're winding a toroid. Wow, that's not an easy thing to do. Winding a toroid transformer. I wonder if you've got the special spools and winding equipment then to do toroids. I mean, it's not so bad taking a few windings off a toroid, maybe to alter the voltage a little bit, but trying to put windings on them is really, really hard without the specialist winding equipment. I didn't think you could wind one by hand. Perhaps you can let us know how you're winding that toroid. Yeah, Georgia says that those cheap Chinese signal generators are pretty rubbish. Oh, and we've got Steel City I wanted to say Steel City Fixings. I work with a company who buy my nuts and bolts off called Steel City Fixings. They're based in Sheffield, but it's actually Steel City, which is Phil. So, hi Phil, nice of you to join us on this impromptu, quick Saturday session. Tony's saying the Dutch drink beer as soda. We were speculating whether it was something you were drinking, Tony, or something you were smoking. We couldn't quite explain how you could be quite so happy. I think it's one of life's mysteries. Why is Tony so happy? I wish I could get that excited about valve radios. And Nick Petronics is saying that there's nothing wrong with the cheaper with the Chinese DSOs. I'm not sure. I haven't tried one. I know that, like I say, a lot of the ones I've seen have had bad reviews, and certainly the one that Tony's had, he had 2 in a row which both blew up. And I think the other problem that I've seen with them is can't some of them have some unexpectedly high electric shock hazards. I think they use some rather poor quality switch mode transformers in them. Or, sorry, not switch mode transformers, switch mode power supplies. And I've seen quite a few reports where things like if you try to measure the grounded plugs on the output of a BNC connector, you can find there's like hundreds of volts on it because there's no real isolation. I don't think there's a lot of current behind it because I think most of this voltage comes from the RFI interference capacitor, which is installed between the primary and the secondary of the transformer inside a switch mode. But I've certainly seen people reporting measuring some quite high voltages on the back of them. Yeah, I think Georgie said he's going to stick with his HP. What do I use? I mainly use a Marconi signal generator, which is it's a 2022. I seem to use when I'm doing things like CBs and more modern radio equipment, I would typically use one of the RF test sets that you've seen me using in the past. You can't see it now because it's under the blanket. We've covered it up. But I've got an RF test set which goes between 1 megahertz and I think it's 1 gigahertz, the test set that I'm using, the Stabilock. So I've actually got 2 Stabilock test sets. I think they both really only go down to more or less a megahertz. And I've also got a Marconi 2955. I think the 2955 might go down to less than a megahertz, but I'm not sure. But obviously, when I'm working on valve radio equipment, you might want 800 kilohertz or something like that. So my more modern test sets, they won't go down to a low enough frequency. So I use the Marconi up there for most of my RF test sets, and I also use that for doing the I use it for most of my valve radios, and I also use that RF signal generator to generate the 455, the intermediate frequency, when I'm doing an alignment. Yeah, Tony says there's nothing beats the Marconi. I don't know. It's good enough for me. A lot of people buy very, very high-end test equipment, don't they? And I've never spent a huge amount of money on my test equipment. That's not quite true. I spent a disgusting amount of money on a scope a few years ago, a Keysight oscilloscope, mainly because I needed it for work, because I needed to do some protocol decoding of I2C and SPI bus. So I ended up buying quite an expensive oscilloscope, but up until then, I don't think I've really ever paid more than about £200 for a piece of test equipment. You don't need to pay silly money for test equipment. You just need to bide your time, keep your eye out. You buy it on eBay. Unfortunately, when you buy on eBay, you end up kissing a few frogs. I've actually bought quite a bit of test equipment on eBay that for some reason I've never been able to repair it, if it's got custom ICs in, or it was just beyond me to repair it. But generally I don't pay a lot of money for test gear, and especially for fixing valve radios and stuff like that, you certainly don't need to spend a lot of money. I think that probably the most important thing to buy is a half decent DVM, digital voltmeter. But even buying one of them, you probably don't need to spend more than about £30 or £40 these days to get really a good digital voltmeter. So I guess that, so this radio, what did we say? Did we say it was a BA90? I've forgotten already. I have to look it up again. BP90. Okay, so we've got the Bush BP90 on the desk at the moment. I don't think I can power it up right now, probably for the simple reason that I'm not exactly sure what any of the wire colours are for on here, unless somebody can bring up the service details for what does what. It's probably going to have to identify the high tension, the low tension, and also the bias as well. I think it's probably got a grid bias setting on it. How many wires, how many connections has it got? One, two, three, four. So I'm guessing that one of the connections is probably a ground, a chassis ground, and then we're going to have other connections which are for the supply to the heaters and the valves, and also the high tension supply. Unfortunately, I haven't got a circuit diagram for this. I'm wondering if it also needs a grid bias supply, or does it generate that? Has it got cathode? Does it use cathode bypass resistors? No, I don't think it does. I'm guessing that this probably also needs a bias voltage. Has anybody got can anybody get a data sheet up for this? Has anybody got one handy for the BP90? Perhaps if somebody can get a BP90 up, they can tell us what these wires actually do. Unfortunately, the colouring has gone on some of them. I can see we've got a red and a yellow, and them are all I can really make out on it, in that there's two other colours, but they kind of look like they're they both look like they're a dark blue colour. I can't actually make out what that colours they are. They're just old rubber wiring. And George is talking about his CM200 Yeah, the CM200 is a very nice piece of equipment, isn't it? That's another RF test set, which some of you may be familiar with. As I say, if you're just doing basic radio restoration, you don't need an RF test set. RF test sets are really, for those that you haven't seen them, they're for working with equipment that's, they're for working with transceivers basically. So it's for working with transmitters and receivers. If you just want to work on radio receivers, then you definitely don't need to purchase an RF test set. You can do everything you ever need to do just with a signal generator. Black and blue is the low tension. Right, okay. Fortunately, I can't quite tell what those colours are, but let me just write those down. Black and blue is low tension. And yellow is a HT. So yeah, so I've actually got 4 wires on here. It looks like I've got 2 wires which look to be, well, they look black or blue. I can't really tell them apart. Can you? You probably won't see them on the camera, but I've got 2 wires here that kind of look identical to each other. They're exactly the same color. I've certainly got a red and a yellow. So are you saying that red and yellow is HT? So blue is heaters. I mean, we might be able to measure some of these. We should get a fairly low resistance for these heaters, shouldn't we? So in fact, I've got some pins on here, but I can't actually see where the wires go to. So I have to undo that connector. Feels as though this radio has been fiddled with. It doesn't really feel quite correct. But I suppose after so many years, it's not surprising. Right, okay. So just looking at it, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to power this up right away, because I can see that, unfortunately, you won't be able to see it very well on the camera, but the actual wiring, the rubber-coated wiring, where it was underneath this connector, which would go on top of the battery here, the wiring has actually, the insulation's completely gone on it. So all these wires, all these blacks, yellows, and blues, they're all shorted together. It's a shame we can't get some power on it. Steve's saying you can get the manual from the Radio Museum. Yeah, I'm on the Radio Museum website at the moment. Red and yellow HT. So you should be able to get an idea, because the high tension should be quite a high resistance, and the low tension should be a much lower resistance. So let's just have a look at that. So I'm going to go between, I've got two wires here that just look black and black. I think you're saying one is blue and one is black. They both look black to me. Right, well, they're coming up as 3 megohms at the moment, so that doesn't look right. Could have an open circuit valve, or maybe the radio's not switched on. That would also do it. Right, we're getting 2 megohms there, which is, God, I'm being attacked. Is the radio switched on? No, it was switched off, so that would probably explain that. So let's go between these 2 black wires. I'm going to assume that one of them is actually blue. No, we're not really getting anything there. Could be a dirty switch. Oh, there we go, 7.2 ohms. That looks like that's in the that's probably in the ballpark for a set of valve heaters, isn't it? And then across the yellow and the red, we've got 2 megohms, which looks a bit high to me, but it could be in the ballpark. Okay, then, so can somebody see what the heater voltage is for this radio? Was it 2 volts? I'm guessing it's probably 2 volt heaters on here. Does anybody know? Does it say that in any of the information you've got? The black goes to the chassis. Right, okay. Should be able to identify that then. I think that one might be black. Just check none of the others go to chassis. Oh, the black and the blue both seem to go to the chassis, but probably, that just means it's less than 7 ohms, doesn't it? Okay, I think what I can do now is I can colour one of these wires in that's a bit faded. I can colour it in black because we've identified that now. Well, Rob says the heaters on this are 1.5 volts, are they? 1.5. Right. Question is, have I got anything in front of me that'll do 1.5 volts for a heater? I'm not sure. I'm just Just going to turn away from you. I'm just going to have a look at the power supply that I've got under my bench here. I think this has got 6-volt heater supplies on it. Yeah, that's got 6.3 and 12 volts on it. So I can't power that up from my main high tension supply. I've got a bench power supply up here. Let's see if I can find some test leads. Now, generally, I wouldn't just power up a valve radio. I would change that capacitor, that grid coupling capacitor. But I have to admit, I'm not terribly excited about this radio. It was very cheap, and although I don't want to destroy the thing, I'm quite willing to take the risk of just trying to power it up, especially being a valve set. If we keep the current turned down relatively low, we should be able to avoid doing too much damage. I don't think it's going to red plate anything. Okay, so we're drawing about 0.5 of an amp at 1.5 volts. Let me just check the voltage because I've got quite long power supply leads on it. Near enough, 1.48 volts. Okay, so that's our low tension supply sorted. A couple of, yeah, people are just saying what we can use here. So 1.5 volts. Oh, you've emailed the trader sheet. Thanks very much. I probably can't just get that access to that though right away. In fact, let me see if I can. Let me just see if I can just access my email because it would help me to know. As I said to you before, I've said to you hundreds of times, I'm not an expert on valve radios. I just muddle along. I read the data sheets, and usually if I read the data sheets, I can just about get by. Oh, I see George has sent me something as well. Oh, thanks for the people who've sent me the data sheets. I also see that George has sent it me on Messenger, so that's a little bit easier for me to pick up. So thank you to the people that sent me the data sheets. Very kind of you. Okay, Bush BP90. So it's a 2-band portable superhat with a self-contained frame aerial. You know, I actually thought that this frame aerial here was something that somebody had home brewed. It just looks. It doesn't look like this was made in a radio factory. It's just really crudely kind of put together. So I'm quite surprised that that has been that's actually been made by Bush. It just looks like something I've made in my shed. Ah, it does have a minus HT. So not very exciting for you. I'm just reading batteries. I'll just read out what the shirt says. Batteries in our version, which was a recent model, separate all-dry HT and LT batteries were employed. The HT unit was an ever-ready type 90 volt, rated at 90 volts with a wonder plug socket. The LT unit was an ever-ready all-dry battery rated at 1.5 volts. In earlier versions, up to serial number 13150, a combined 90 volts HT and 1.5 volt LT unit was used with a 4-pin battery connector. So for all you battery aficionados, we want something called an ever-ready Battery Max D103. So has anybody got a D103 to hand? An ever-ready D103, because that's what we need. So as we said, we think that this is an early model of radio, and it's just got this single battery connector. So that would coincide with this data sheet that it's an early model radio. It's funny though that it says it's a leatherette cloth, but this doesn't seem like a cloth to me. It seems much more like some kind of I don't know. It's hard. It's like shellac, but it's like a crinkle finish paint. So I don't think it's a leather cloth. I think it's some kind of crinkly paint that they've put on this. Rexine. No, I don't think it is Rexine, Simon, because as far as I know, Rexine is a cloth, isn't it? This feels like a paint finish. There's no, whatever it is very, very thin. I'm sure that's a paint. I don't think it's a cloth. Yeah, old bloke says he's got a D103 down the back of the sofa. Simon's saying that the filaments warm up in about 2 seconds. They probably do, but the problem with these battery sets, these low voltage filaments, is you can't see them glowing. You maybe can, you can sometimes see something in a completely black room, but generally you can't see anything and you can't feel anything either. But we are drawing about 0.5 of an amp. I could just try knocking some lights off, but I don't think we'll see anything. Let me just knock some more lights off. Let me just see. We're not going to see anything, I'm sure we're not. No, I can't see anything. Can't see anything. I think we're just going to have to. We're just going to have to guess. Thermal image camera. Have we got a thermal imaging camera to hand? Okay, here's a thermal imaging camera we've paired earlier. Although I'm sure the batteries are flat because they always seem to be. Okay, well the thermal imaging camera's got flat batteries. So no thermal imaging camera action today, I'm afraid. The batteries in this FLIR camera are always flat. It doesn't seem to matter how long you've charged them for, or whenever you charge them. Whenever I get it out to use it, they're always flat. Could try plugging it in, see if it comes on. Maybe it will. Let's see if this thing works up. I'm afraid you can't see anything there, can you? Just glare. I can't see anything warming up. I would have thought it would have shown on the camera, but it doesn't seem to be. Just try switching the radio on and off just to double check the heater's going on and off with it. Yeah. Well, we're definitely drawing 0.5 of an amp, which I would have thought is probably about right for these heaters. But you can just see that my hand is, well, hopefully you can see my hand is, oh, it's terrible, isn't it? You just can't see. Too many reflections in this room. Can I somehow get it in so... No, sorry, I can't get you in with this camera on here so you can see. It's just reflecting from the window behind you. I don't think you can normally feel these valves getting warm. These little battery set valves. I don't think you can normally feel them getting warm anyway. Oh, you saying, Simon's saying you've never felt them getting warm? Pull a valve and see if the current drops. Good call, Simon. Let's do that. Let's pull a valve and see if it drops. So we're drawing 0.5 of an amp at the moment. Let's just pull this valve. No, and it didn't drop. So that's quite telling, isn't it? Maybe I've pulled a valve that's already got a bad filament on it. Let's try pulling another valve. No, so we've pulled two valves there and the filament hasn't changed. That was a good call, that, Simon. No, so pulling the valves isn't affecting the current at all. So that would lead me to believe that that current obviously isn't going to the valve filament. So I can just double check. So people said earlier that the blue and the black was the filament. Let me just double check that. I'm just wondering, yeah, the sockets can go bad, but these sockets will be connected in parallel with each other, won't they? I'm just going to go back and have a look at the circuit diagram that George sent to us. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the circuit diagram. It's not exactly clear to me what I'm looking at, but I'm fairly sure that they'll all be 1.5 volt heaters, won't they? And so they'll be parallel together. So if I was to pull one of the valves there, the current should just drop. It shouldn't disappear totally. Well, I pulled each of the valves in turn there, and the current didn't change at all. It stayed steady at 0.51 amps. Let me just double check what you get when we short circuit the power supply. Okay, so my power supply is set to current limit at 3 amps. So yeah, it could of course be a bad switch, couldn't it? Yeah, that's not doing very much, is it? Afternoon, Dave. Yeah, you're saying the sockets can be faulty. They can be. I agree. It is very typical for sockets to be bad, isn't it? But we're not likely to get. I think 3 valve sockets all bad. I'm wiggling the valves there in the sockets, and the current, you can't see it, but I've got a voltmeter. Can I bring? Will you be able to see that about? So I've got a voltmeter up here. So that's the current 0.5 amps. So it's not even 0.5 amps, is it? That's 51 milliamps. All right, okay. I actually misread that before. So we're actually only drawing 5 milliamps. So that is definitely not right. But oh, where are my eyes going? No, that is 51 milliamps. So that isn't correct. That. Let's just measure that. Measure that again. Measure the resistance of the valves. In fact, I'm getting a bad reading again now. Oh, 7 ohms. So what's 1.5 volts across 7 ohms? 1.5 divided by 7 ohms. So that should be 200 milliamps. We're not getting anything like that. Could we just have really bad connections? No, we seem to be having a good connection there. Let's try going off the chassis. No, we're only drawing 50 milliamps, so I think what we might have to do is pull this out of its chassis and trace it through, because the readings I'm getting aren't making a lot of sense. I just did a calculation there because I'm measuring. I am measuring 7 ohms. So if you put 1.5 volts as the heater voltage across 7 ohms, that's 0.2 amps, and we're only drawing, well, that's 200 milliamps, and we're actually only drawing 50 milliamps. So for some reason, there's something not right there. I'm just thinking that these connections are just look really bad, and they're probably maybe just fighting me. I'm just wondering if the resistance changes if I pull a valve. No, the resistance doesn't change if I pull a valve either. Well, I think that this needs a bit more investigation, and probably more than I want to do today, because the filament resistance will rise rapidly. Yeah, it will rise. You're quite right. It will rise. But I still don't think that is correct, because we would see on the power supplies, we pulled valves, we would see the current going up and down, and we're not seeing that. So there's something not right somewhere. I'll just repeat that test again. So black to black, and the positive 1.5 to the blue wire. In fact, I'll just try shorting those clips out here. Okay, so that current limit's at 3 amps there at the moment, so clip it to the black. Again, 50 milliamps. But if I pull a valve, that 50 milliamps should change. And it isn't changing. Let's try pulling another one. No, just staying the same. What does anybody want to do next? Do you want to have a look at what's in the other boxes, or shall we try and remove this frame aerial and dig a little bit deeper? It's up to you guys. I'm going to do what you guys want me to do today. Simon wants to see us having a go at fixing it. Okay, let's dig a little bit further if you've got the patience to watch me. Just out of interest, let's just have a look at, let's see what this valve is I can pull out. This is probably a frequency changer thing. So I've got a 1A7 GT. Can anybody tell me what the heater pins are for that then? It's one of those, is it Loctile valves, the one with a little pip in it? I think they're called Loctile, aren't they, these? How many pins is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's an 8-pin Loxel base on this. Mac Vision says more drink. I haven't got any alcohol, unfortunately. I think that's maybe where I'm going wrong. Shall we try and liberate it from its chassis, and then maybe we can see a little bit more? Right, so I think the first thing to do is we need to take out this frame aerial, and it just looks really crude the way this thing's put together. It just looks as though it's screwed in on a couple of big long bolts, so we'll have to get this frame aerial out. Okay, Cody's. Hello, Paul. Just a bit of an impromptu live stream where I had to unpack some boxes because my wife was getting annoyed. See, this is what my wife would say. She sent me upstairs to unpack some boxes, whereas what she will do is she'll come up and she'll find me having not unpacked the boxes, but I will have got distracted. I'll have become distracted and started playing with my toys. And she knows me very well, obviously, because that's exactly what's happened. I came up here to unpack some boxes, and now we're not unpacking boxes. All we're actually doing is fiddling with a valve radio. We're not doing any unboxing. So, yeah, she's got me right, hasn't she? So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just trying to release the frame aerial. So you can see that this wooden thing here, it's a frame aerial, and well, we've released that now, but it's got some connections we've got to remove on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write what those connections are on here. Oh, green, blue, yellow. Somebody's already beaten me to that and written the connections on. So okay, that should be the frame aerial out now. Well, it should be, but it appears there's a couple more little screws, which I'm sure it should pull over them. It isn't. I don't think I told you how much I hate battery sets, have you? I do hate working on battery sets. I can feel myself throwing the towel in. It's a battery thing, actually. Although you can make up batteries fairly easily, it's just, to me, I just find it an extra step of pain that you have to put yourself through. I do much prefer working on main sets, although I have actually done quite a few battery sets now. Hopefully this frame area should come out now. So there you can see we've got this frame aerial. So we've got the, I think we've got the fine medium wave windings and the lesser long wave windings here. So it looks as though it's got two kind of tuned antenna systems here, depending on which band you're on. But it just looks distinctly homebrew, that. You know, it looks as though it's made out of an old orange crate. It doesn't look as though it was factory, but I'm guessing it was factory. Hello, Mike, Racing Demon. Now, I have to say, if any of you are expecting this to be on the scale of one of Graham's live streams where we're on this for 3 or 4 hours, you can forget that. We'll probably be on for just another half hour, maybe an hour at the most. And if we haven't got it working for then it's not going to be working on this particular session. Hi, Colin, because I don't particularly have the time or the energy to spend all the day on the live stream, I'm afraid. Okay, so that's got just release the knob off the side of it there now. Okay, got a couple more screws which I think are retaining the chassis. I think we've just got a second screw retaining the chassis, and then it's just a matter of denobulating it, and I think it will come out then. Okay, I'm thinking now it might just be the knobs holding it in now, but I'm not dead sure. One knob off. 2 knobs off. Okay, so there we have the denobulation complete. Is this radio going to come out of its chassis now? There, got some lovely filth in here. Oh God, that is absolutely disgusting. I'm just wondering if I can just sweep some of this crud out into something. There's about an inch of dirt and dust and detritus hanging on the front of this speaker. It's absolutely disgusting. Can you see? It's absolutely full of filth. So I've got to try to get rid of some of this dust because it's horrible. I can sweep some into my bin here. So there's so much filth and crud in here. I'm questioning if anybody's ever been in it, but I think there's a more modern capacitor in there that I've just spotted. Yeah, okay, so I think somebody's been in here, haven't they? Because it's got a, I'm not going to call it a modern capacitor, but it's got a 2 microfarad in here strapped across the, I guess, one of the power supplies. So it looks as though somebody's been here at some point. Yeah, and that capacitor looks as though it's quite crudely J-hooked in place. Oh, it's an RS brand capacitor. We've always liked to see an RS brand capacitor. So that's a 2 microfarad at 500 volts. Now we've got a stack of waxy capacitors here, which almost certainly want changing out. It actually looks like quite an easy radio to work on this, in that most of the capacitors are on these nice tag strips here, so they're going to come off quite easily if we want to replace them. This was actually only meant to be, if anything, a resurrection video. I'm not planning on doing a restoration today. I just wondered if we could get some hum or something out of this. And again, a few more waxy capacitors. Quite a few more waxy capacitors. We can see, can I bring you in? Quite a few more waxy capacitors going on inside here, but the chassis layout is actually pretty open. It looks like quite an easy thing to work on this. So it looks as though the way that we switch the radio on and off, it looks like the switch is only connected to the LT. So the HT, the high tension battery, is permanently connected. And to switch the radio on and off, you switch on and off the heaters to the valves. So I think the easiest thing to do is try to trace this wiring through to the valves, isn't it? I think the first thing that I might try to do then is I'm going to put the low tension. Let me just catch up with the chat, because I haven't spoke to you for a while, have I? I've just been waffling to myself. It's dirtier than an Essex girl. If only, Andrew. If only. Oh, hello, Bretsky. Oh, and Sean's here as well. Hi, Sean. Nice to see you. Hey up, Sean. Yeah, the HT should not flow without the heaters. No, you shouldn't be getting any of those. Those electrons shouldn't be wanting to jump off the plate unless the bums are getting hot, are they? So we need some heat in the filaments just to give those electrons enough energy to make the leap off the cathode. Have I missed anything? No, you've missed absolutely nothing of any importance whatsoever, Benji. I'd carry on doing whatever you were doing. It's probably more interesting than watching me. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put our heater supply back on again. And I'm just going to check it by shorting the leads out. Okay, so when I short the leads out, yeah, I've got 3 amps on the power supply up there. So let's go put the red lead on the blue and the black lead on the black. Okay, well, we've done that, and we're only drawing again 51 milliamps. Shall we just try taking a jumper lead and shorting the switch out so we know we've taken the switch out of circuit? Well, in fact, what we can do is we can take the wire out of circuit because we can just clip the heater directly onto the opposites. You can connect the lead from my power supply onto the opposite side of the switch. And again, we're just drawing 51 milliamps. Now, the other side of the heater is connected to the chassis on this radio, so I'm going to do away with the valve wiring altogether. So I'm going to do away with the battery wiring altogether and go off the chassis of the radio. So let's just clip that onto the chassis. And again, we're getting 51 milliamps. So that is bizarre. Shall we try taking all the valves out? And because for all I know, every one of these valves could be bad. They could all have open circuit filaments. I'm thinking maybe that's what we should do. We should pull all the valves together and just double check that. Yeah, Simon's saying check the filaments on these one by one. Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. So I'm just having a look at the valve bases on here. I'm just going to write on what valves what. V2, V2, just makes it a little bit easier. Oh. Got that wrong already, written the wrong number down. Just wipe that off and have another go. I don't know enough about valves and stuff like that just to be able to look at the numbers and know what they are. I mean, I know that this one here next to the wave change switch, that's probably the frequency changer. But you know, some people have worked a lot with valve radios. They can read the numbers of the valves off and they can know what they are. Well, I can't. I'm not that experienced. So V1. Sorry, that one's V2. 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 V4. 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 V3. 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 So that one must be V1. There's V1. So there's V1 pulled. That made no difference to the current. There's V2 pulled. That made no difference to the current. So that was V4. Oh, that was V4 I pulled then, wasn't it? Let's pull V2. Okay, that made no difference to the current. And V3 is proving to be a little bit stubborn. Right, okay. So we pulled V3 out there, valve 3, and the we pulled out valve 3 and the current has dropped. It's actually now only well, it's not drawing anything. So it appears that the only valve which is actually drawing any current from the heaters is our valve 3. So this could actually be where the restoration ends, because it looks like we could have a whole bunch of open circuit filaments. Now that seems quite unlikely, doesn't it? Maybe it's a dry joint on the supply to the heater filaments, because I suspect one is daisy chain from the next. That would seem more likely. I wonder if I can try putting this this valve in a different position, this V3 valve. I'm guessing the heaters are all in on the same pins. In fact, let me just have a look at the same circuit diagram. Okay, so I think the heaters are all on the same pins for these valves. So this valve is actually drawing current, so I should be able to move this from one place to another, use it as a test valve. Okay, so that's drawing 51 milliamps now from the power supply with a valve in that position. Okay, it draws 51 milliamps in that position. $51 milliamps in the other position. And 51 milliamps in the other position. So this valve looks good, so I'm going to put a tick on there. I'm going to write good. So let's try one of the other valves in one of the other positions now. So this is V1, which will be the frequency changer, which is, for those playing along at home, it says it's a 1A7-GT. And it's an RCA valve made in the US of A. So I'm just going to try that in the V3 position. And nothing, no current is drawn. let's try. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to put a cross on that because that looks like it's got an open heater. We'll check these, we'll measure the heaters separately. Open. Okay, let's try our V4 valve. And again, that's not drawing current. So I think that's open as well. So let's try our V2, which is a DF33. And that is reading open as well. Now, I'm slightly amazed by that. Has anybody ever been so unlucky to have a valve radio that's actually got most of the valve filaments open? I've never seen that in my life before. It makes me suspicious of what I'm doing. So I think what we need to do next is we need to check the valve filament. So I'm going to start with this good valve first and try and measure the resistance of the filament on it. Because I could have got something wrong. I get stuff wrong all the time. Okay, so this is measuring 7 ohms for the filament, which is about what I was measuring when I was doing the testing through the connector, wasn't it? We were measuring 7 ohms, so that's on our good valve. That's showing me that we've got 7 ohms across the filament. Let's just do a measurement on one of the others. And it's open circuit. Check another one. And that's open circuit. And finally, do check the last valve. Just making sure I get the right pin. Well, I'm not going to check this last valve, which is a frequency changer valve, because I'm not exactly sure how to count the pins on that. Well, oh, it's Tony off. Okay, see you later, Tony. Thanks for joining us. It's much appreciated. Well, I don't know. I think that's rather conclusive. So we've just measured 4 of the valves, and 3 of them have got open circuit filaments. So we really can't take this repair any further, can we? Because they're all open circuit. No, you can't. What I'm surprised about, though, is I've never seen a valve radio with so many open circuit valves in it. maybe at some point this has had something connected to it that it shouldn't. Maybe somebody's tried to power it up in a way that they shouldn't, and they burnt out the filaments. Yeah, not just one open circuit, Mike, though. 3 out of the 4 valves are open circuit. So yeah, that's a complete fail, isn't it? So unfortunately, I don't see that we can go any further with this repair today. We can't go any further with it because I don't have any well, I may have some replacement valves in the garage, I'm not sure. I think I may have a DF33, but I'm not sure about any of these other valves. And it has actually got a mix of valves in it. It's got a Mullard valve, a Cossa valve, another Mullard, and an RCA valve. So this radio has got, well, I'm guessing I was going to say these valves are original, but back in the day, this is a 1946 vintage radio. So it's quite likely that what they were doing is they were using up war surplus valves. So they were probably just using what they had to hand. So I was going to say that all these valves have been changed out, but that might not be the case. They could be the original valves. And the fact is they were just using whatever valves they could get their hands on, because I'm guessing at 1946, it should have been, or there would have been, huge shortages of valve components and stuff like that, wouldn't there? So it's maybe not surprising that we found a mix of valves. But that stopped us in our tracks today, in that, yeah, no more valves, no replacement valves. So that explains why we weren't drawing any low tension current, and probably why nothing felt to be getting hot either. So that's a shame, isn't it? So I'm guessing, unless anybody wants to see what's in this other box, that's probably a logical place to leave it today. And maybe we'll make the subject of the next live stream. Maybe we'll get some valves and put them in and see if it powers up. Simon says another box. Okay, maybe we'll look at one more box. And the only problem is my bench now is full of bits of radio, so you're going to have to give me a couple of minutes just to tidy up a bit. What's in the other box? Oh, a few people want to see the other box. Okay, so Rob's saying I think it may have been fitted with a battery illuminator. Oh, there must be battery illuminators as well. They call that a torch, don't they? Battery illuminator. So I think it may have been fitted with a battery eliminator, and they were unregulated. So if one went, the open circuit voltage would rise, and they don't. Yeah, okay. So I think what he's saying is, yeah. So these battery illuminators, they weren't regulated, and probably being a transformer, depending on what load you put on the transformer, the output voltage would change. I'm guessing though that it would have to be on for an awful long time, or to kill a valve. I mean, valve filaments are quite robust. I mean, even those are 1.3, 1.5 volt valves, I suspect even if you were running them at double the voltage, 3 volts, they probably would still not go. They'd probably stay intact. I always wonder with valve sets is, people, don't know about things like battery sets and stuff like that. So it could be that at some point in its life, somebody tried to connect mains to it, and that would have taken the valves out in short order, wouldn't it? So maybe that's what happens. Maybe somebody's connected it to the mains. Although if they had connected it to the mains, would it have exploded? I don't know. Tell you what, you lot give me a minute just to clear some of this stuff out of the way, because I want to keep all these nuts and screws together, and then when we buy some valves for this, for maybe the next live stream, and we plug them in, we can put it all back together with the right screws. So let me just take a moment to just tidy up a little bit. In fact, we'll just put the valves back in to keep them in some kind of order. I really am dumbfounded about that. What were the chances? So we've got one good valve. Our one good valve is a 1H5GT, a 1H5GT. I wonder what that is. Let's just see if I can look that up on the circuit diagram. Oh, can't immediately save that. Should I have a look at the Valve Museum? So 1H5GT. 1H5GT. Tube. Right, the 1H5GT is a dry battery diode triode for receiver use. So I'm guessing that this is probably our detector and maybe ALC stage or something like that. So that looks like our detector valve is good, but all the other tubes are buggered. It's a combination diode and triode. Yeah, thanks, Doug. Just having a look at the valve base there. I do struggle sometimes to read these valve bases. Like I say, I think they're to call them Loctile valves. They've got the little pip on them. I do somewhat struggle to read the numbering system on some of these. Right, put that valve back in there just to keep hold of it. Just out of interest, if we are thinking about maybe doing another live stream on this, is anybody interested in seeing this valve radio repaired? Do you think it's worth buying some valves for it? We could certainly look at what the valves will cost. If they're not too expensive, maybe we'll go ahead and do it. But if there's any real expensive audiophile valves in it, then I'm afraid this will probably just get passed on to somebody else, because I'm not a great fan of battery sets, to be quite honest. They're not really something that I love. Some people do. Some people make a point of collecting them. Oh, Dave's saying yes, he'd like to see it repaired, and so Simon, yeah, I would like to see it work again. It is in nice condition. You're right. The cabinet is in very good condition, Simon, and it's got like a plastic, almost like a plastic perforated speaker grill on it. Feels like plastic mesh, and yeah, that feels in really good condition. It's very clean as well. So so it probably would be a nice radio. And Graham's also saying that he likes battery sets. Yeah, okay. Okay, worth repair if it's cost effective. Yeah, that's what I think. You know, if the valves aren't too expensive, we'll have a go. I'm just reading what Steve's saying about the octal valves pin at the bottom. So you're saying that pin 1 there, I'll just get a valve out. Oops. Oh, let me find an easy one to pull out. So you're saying that the little pip on it indicates the start of where you count from. Octal pin at the bottom, octals pin at the bottom, and count round. Base facing you, pin 1. I don't think this will show up on the camera very well. So you're saying that that's the central pit there. Oh, this isn't coming out very well. Can you see it? So there's the pit there. So you're saying that that one is pin 1. Well, I think my camera's reversing everything. That's a bit strange. Okay, yeah, I'll look into that. I can never remember. I don't play with enough valves to remember these things. But you're saying that the pip indicates where you start counting from. Well, it can be on different pins, Sean. That's the problem. Yeah, I'm never sure on where heaters are. I usually just go around with a voltmeter until I find the pair of pins which are correct. Yeah, okay, so the pip does indicate where pin 1 is. I think it's probably to the left of the pip is pin 1. Okay, let me move this out of the way and clear a bit of space. So that was a bit disappointment, wasn't it? That, although in fairness, I hadn't planned on actually digging into this radio today. It literally was just going to be a quick unboxing. So unfortunately, well, not you, I failed there, didn't I? That's a bit of a shame. Oh, just before I get to that box, dial string. I'm just wondering if you can still buy the proper dial string new. Certainly, I was looking for some dial string for that last radio I was playing with. I even forget what radio it was now. Oh yeah, it was that HMV 1021 or something like that. So it had the dial string had broken on it, so I had to rewind a new string for it, and I couldn't necessarily find any. I didn't have anything for restringing it, so somebody recommended that I buy this this braided fishing line. So I've gone ahead and I've purchased some of that fishing line, and I'm guessing it's a lot stronger than the original dial cord. It does actually seem a little bit fatter. Okay, so I'm sure that will be okay. The only problem I see with this dial cord is that it doesn't look completely round. It's almost like it's flat rather than a round section. I think it'd probably work, but it's not a replacement for the original waxy type stuff. Yeah, it's saying £50 fishing line. Do you mean fishing line though, or do you mean braid? So this is braid. This is not a solid piece of nylon. It's like a wire rope. It's got individual little strands on it. So what are you saying there? Are you saying use a fishing line or a braid like this? Oh, and Simon's saying pin 1 is left of the pip. Oh yeah, thanks Simon. Pin 2 is clockwise. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for just confirming that. Yeah, braided fishing line. Yeah, so this is some braided fishing line, and in theory, it says that it's 0.68 millimeter. This is 100 meters of 150-pound line, and it's 0.68 millimeters. So I thought 0.68 would be would be about the right size. But like I say, looking at the section on it, this looks more like it looks more like a flat section. It actually looks like it's about 1 millimeter wide. In fact, I've got a pair of calipers there. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it is about, okay, it is about 0.6 or 0.7. Maybe that's a little bit big, 0.6. Maybe I should have gone for something even smaller. I seem to be buying a lot of these fishing lines. I actually bought one before that, and I got that wrong as well. Where's the other stuff that I bought? So if I ever decide to take up the hobby of fishing, I will be fine, because I've got boxes and boxes of this fishing line, all of which doesn't appear to be quite the right size. Oh, so what's Graham saying he's using? He's saying he's got some £200 here. That's 0.75. Yeah, well, in theory, this is 150. And it's 0.68, and it's a little bit smaller than that. The one I bought first of all was, well, maybe I'll have to get the reel out. Well, the one that I originally bought was £250, which was 8.8 millimeters, and I thought that that was too thick. So the next one I bought was 0.68. But do you find that 0.75 works okay then, Graham? Is that what you use for your battery sets and stuff like that? Is that what you commonly use for restringing? And is it a problem that this braid isn't particularly round? It's not dead round. It seems as though it might have been round at some point, but it's definitely like got a flat on it. You can feel it as you spin it between your fingers. It doesn't roll. It kind of, well, because it's a rectangular section, it kind of, yeah, it doesn't roll between the fingers very well. So that was something that I bought. Oh, Graham's saying he uses loads of different sizes. Yeah, the HMV, I didn't actually have any of this fishing line. I used something which I believe they call carp wire, which is like a thin metal wire. And I did restring it in that, and it did work, and I left it with that. But the only problem was it was like a metal wire, and it felt a bit slippy when it was actually on metal. The string is metal, and when you put it on a metal shaft, it was a little bit slippy, I think. So when you turned the tuning control, it didn't grip tightly around the shaft, and it seemed to slip a little bit at the extremes of the radio dial. I mean, it could just be that I didn't have it quite tight enough, but again, that's something that a product which people had recommended me in the past, which is something called carp wire, but it didn't work particularly well for me. Ah, Murphy sets use a metal wire. Right, okay, yeah. And Andrew says pike wire. Yeah, pike wire, that's what I'd call it as well. Right, okay, just move a few more things out of the way. Ah, greetings, Bill Fear. Nice for you to join us. Hope we're not keeping you from your beauty sleep. Right, okay, who's ready for this second box then? I think some of my friends might know what this is because I've mentioned it before, but I haven't had a look at it myself yet. I kind of want to tease you with it because I think it's quite a good game for you to guess, because you guys are pretty good at guessing valve radios. And again, this radio seems to have been really quite beautifully wrapped up. So we've got one of those cloth covered cables here. So that gives you a rough idea of maybe something to do with the age. And of course we've got lovely, we've got the proper black and red cabling. So none of that brown and blue nonsense. So of course now we've left the EU, we'll be changing next year to use the black and red cabling again, as everybody knows. So that'll be good, won't it, to go back to the old cabling? It's much more obvious than the horrible brown and blue stuff. And we've got a nice proper green earth as opposed to the green and yellow nonsense. Yeah, much better. Is Andrew guessing it's a radiogram? You could be some way off there. Robert's Rambler, no. I don't think I'm a Roberts man, I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid I come down with Man Cave Workshop. I think I'm probably a hacker man. And that's going to upset Paul, isn't it? But yeah, I think I am. I think I'd go down the hacker camp. Something about hackers. I don't feel the love for the Roberts radios, I'm afraid. I'm going to be in trouble with Paul. Wait until he sees me later. Okay, shall we do a bit of a snippy snip snip? Been very well wrapped in a, well, it feels like some kind of very dense, kind of compressed, well, not foam because it's a bit hairy, it's kind of stringy, but yeah, like a foam material. I bet this stuff would be absolutely fantastic for filling loudspeakers. You know, there's acoustic damping foam. I'm going to have to keep hold of it. Vidor. No. I think Andrew will be the first to guess this because I think he might have one. Somebody's saying a Murphy. That was a very good guess. That actually. Murphy radio. Yeah, this definitely came from Welwyn Garden City, which I think was one of those new towns, wasn't it? Andrew sent me some pictures of the factory at Welwyn Garden City. This radio factory was so big that it had its own railway sidings, and I think Andrew did tell me something like how many thousands of radios left the Welwyn Garden factory every day. It was something like, I'm sure it was something like 2,000 radios a day left that factory. It just shows what the demand was for radios. Right, okay. I'm trying to tease you. I'm trying to not let you see all of it at once. So, not sure if I should show you the back or the front. No, it's not a Franti. We're going for something from Welwyn Garden City, Sean. Simon's going for a pure radio. No, not a pure. Oh, just got it caught up in its cable. Just let me pull that off. Right, have you seen too much there? Ultra? No, I've told you it's from Welwyn Garden City. So what do we think it is? Ah, okay. Somebody's got it, I believe, there. Well, I'm going to say well done to K40, who's hit the nail squarely on the head. So I'm going to end your anticipation there. So we've got a Murphy A192 radio, which I'm guessing came from the factory out of Welwyn Garden City. These were first made in around 1953, and the interesting thing about, I guess one of the interesting things about this is that I think it was the cabinet design and the styling. This was done by one of the greats of the radio design world, which was David Ogle, who also went on to design the one of the early transistor radios, which was the TR-82. So David Ogle apparently is quite famous in the design world. So so K40 says, bizarrely, he just bought one today. There's a lot of them around. They're not a particularly rare radio. The reason that I bought this is that apart from the little mark on the dial here, I mean, I'm looking at it now for the first time. The finish on it, there's some little tiny scratches, and it looks as though it needs a little bit of a buff up. It needs a bit of a clean. But apart from that, it looks in really good condition. I said it looks in really good condition. The back has just fallen off it. Oh God, again, it's absolutely, totally filled with dust and filth. I'm just wondering if it's got, okay, so Murphy Radio Limited, yes, we were right. Welwyn Garden City, Herefordshire, England. It's an AC mains receiver type A192 for use on 190 to 250 volts. Max power consumption is 4 watts, and that's about all she wrote. Looks as though it will drive an external speaker. And so we've got a speaker connection here for connecting an external speaker, and we've got an external antenna connection here. What have we got here? Installation instructions: slacken chassis fixing screws, 3/4 of a turn. Oh, right, okay. So it looks as though it has some transit screws in it. I wonder where the transit screws were. Were they in the bottom? No. Okay then, boys, what do you want to see? Should we plug it in and try it? Should we do the thing you should never do with valve radios? I'm tempted. I'm game. Does anybody see what happens if we plug it in? Plug it in, live dangerously. Yeah, that's what I say. Plug it in without a fuse. I don't believe in living that dangerously, Simon. I think we should just connect it to the, to the other side of the electric box. To, just bypass the 100 amp incoming mains fuse. Yeah, don't kill the output transformer. Of course, you shouldn't just plug a valve radio in, because that capacitor, which of course is the grid coupling capacitor for the output valve, it will almost certainly be very, very leaky, and that will make the output valve red plate in a fairly short order. But yeah, life's too short, isn't it? Let's see if we've got a lamp limiter around. Plug it in and sniff the dropper smoke. Oh, Has it got a dropper in it, this? I have actually printed out a circuit diagram for this, but I haven't looked at it. I don't think it's got a dropper in it. It looks to me, if I'm reading this right, it looks like it's an auto transformer configuration. If I've got the right, if I've printed off the right diagram, this is using, I think it looks to me like an auto transformer. So interestingly, potentially, is this potentially look like a live chassis then? You know, I'm not dead sure what they've drawn here for the transformer arrangement. I think it's an auto transformer that they're using. But I will be running it from the. I'm going to be running it from my isolated supply anyway. I guess one way to find out is to see if this earth wire is connected to the chassis. The circuit diagram. Well, interestingly enough, the circuit. Oh, you can't see it, can you? The circuit diagram here. It says green to the earth socket. So I'm guessing the earth socket is maybe the antenna earth socket here, but it doesn't show that the chassis is earthed. I haven't got a lot of information on this particular radio. I just noticed everything on my screen. It looks as though it's reversed. Are you seeing everything backwards? Can you see that? Is that backwards on your screens? It's backwards on my screen. It's either that or that's some form of Russian. Looks like Russian, doesn't it? It looks like Cyrillic or something. Well, no, that actually says Murphy. Are you seeing that the right way around? No, it's correct. Okay. Strangely enough, my screen, as I'm looking at myself on the live view, everything is reversed. That is strange, that, isn't it? It's normal view. Yeah, it's normal view. It's reversed for me. Right, okay. So that's, I think that's a 200 watt bulb. I don't think we want a 200 watt bulb in. I think I'd just like to double check what is connected to the chassis on this. Now, interestingly enough, the chassis on this, it's not, it's not nickel plated or zinc plated. Just looking at it, it's actually painted grey. So, that seems like an extra process, painting it grey, as opposed to, just plating it. It looks as though underneath the paint it is plated, but they've actually bothered to paint it grey on top of it. So, an extra manufacturing step. Okay, so I'm just measuring the continuity now between. I'm going to go between the neutral, the black conductor, and the chassis, and I'm wondering if that's going to come up with a low reading. No, that doesn't come up anything. So maybe that's because it was turned off. It's switching the neutral. Okay, 1.1 ohm. Okay, so yeah, so this radio is potentially one that could be classed as being on a little bit dangerous. Would you class this as a live chassis, the fact it uses an auto transformer? I think you probably would class it as a live chassis, wouldn't you? Because the neutral conductor here, the black wire, so you can't see that, can you? So can you see that now? The black wire is actually connected through to the chassis. What's that coming up as? That's coming up as 1.2 ohms. So the problem with this type of set connected in this way is it's okay if your mains wiring and everything is correct, because I'll start again. The problem with a live chassis is because one of the conductors, either the live or the neutral, because it's connected to the chassis, you need to make sure that the neutral conductor coming out of your wall socket, that has to go to the chassis side, because neutral is very close to earth. Neutral and earth are effectively the same thing. They're not always the same thing. It depends on your kind of installation, but pretty much neutral and earth, you shouldn't have a big difference in voltage between the two. So as long as the chassis is connected to the neutral side, everything is safe. But if you've got the plug wired up wrong, so instead of connecting the neutral to the black wire, if you connect the neutral in the plug to the red wire, what will happen is this chassis then will be at 230 volts rather than being at earth. Now again, not such a big deal when the radio is inside its cabinet, everything is sealed up, but if you happen to be working on it, you know, you touch a piece of metal, you're going to get a belt. Don't get the black and red wrong. No, we'll try not to get it wrong. But that's the trouble with live chassis radios. I would kind of say if you're a newcomer to working on valve radios, I'm not going to go mad on the safety police stuff. I would just say until you've got a little bit of experience and you know what you're doing, I would say just try and avoid live chassis sets. You know, there's thousands of different valve radios in the world. You don't necessarily need to start off doing live chassis. Build up a little bit of experience first, because yeah, it's easy to make a mistake and get it wrong. Now, I actually use something called an isolation transformer. One of my sockets on my bench here that you can't quite see at the moment, that's driven from an isolation transformer. So that will mean that I haven't got any reference to earth from the output voltage here. So even if I did connect it up wrong and I was to touch the chassis, in theory, I wouldn't get a belt. I might get a little bit of a tingle, but I shouldn't get a bad electric shock. So that's why I use an isolation transformer whenever I'm working on a live chassis, and especially when I'm working on televisions and stuff, which again tend to have live chassis. Okay, Keith, are you off? Okay, don't blame you. I only came on for a minute, and I've probably been on longer than I planned to be on anyway. All right, okay. So I'm just saying that they also designed AC/DC sets. Yeah, I don't think this is an AC/DC set. I mean, I'm guessing that this is a mains transformer here. Unless there's a mains dropper underneath it. I can't see the audio output transformer, but well, I think the audio output transformer might be under the chassis there. So just roughly tracing the wiring. I think the wiring does go into this transformer on top here. So I think that is an auto transformer rather than an AC/DC set. Yeah, Simon's saying he got an electric shock off a DAC90. Well, that's DAC90s for you, isn't it? A bit of a private joke there for all you watching. Simon Spies is one of my good friends, and he likes DAC90 radios, and I like DAC10s, and it's been a point of argument for the last couple of years, and a lot of leg pulling that I go on about how much I detest DAC90s. I don't actually really detest them, I prefer the white ones to the brown ones, though. That's true. I don't really like the brown ones. I just think they're drab little square boxes. But the white ones don't look too bad. Oh, auto transformers. What's that? The Polish sets use them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think they're particularly well. Saying that, they're not particularly rare, but I bet this is the first set that I've worked on that's got an auto transformer in it. I mean, I know that they do go into valve radios, but most of the valve radios that I've worked on, have got the conventional primary and secondary type transformers. The isolated secondary, but of course, the problem with an auto transformer is that you have no isolation between the primary and the secondary winding. The primary and the secondary winding are effectively the same winding, of course. So yeah, again, auto transformers can be more dangerous. Not always, but they certainly can be. Right, I was going to look for my Variac as well. I wonder where that's gone to. I'll just have a hunt round for it. Probably under a cardboard box somewhere. Back shortly. So I'm going to connect this up using one of my old quick block connectors. Now, this is absolutely not the way you should power up a valve radio. You should actually take a lot more time. But of course, I'm just playing to the audience now and going to power it up and see what happens. So for any young players at home, this is definitely not the right thing to do. You should actually take some time to, as I say, to replace the grid coupling capacitor to the audio output. And you should also check out the main smoothing electrolytics, make sure they're not short circuit, and probably go ahead and reform them. But we're going to try not doing that for a change. If it comes up and it starts humming badly and is making a hell of a row, which we expect it will do, I'm going to be turning the power off because I don't want to destroy this radio. I don't mind giving it a quick try, but I'm not going to destroy it for the sake of making a video. Right. Right, is everybody ready? Well, I think I might just put a voltmeter in circuit so we can see what voltage we've got on here. Right, we've got 100 volts on her now, and you can see that we've got a dial lamp glowing very dimly in the back there. Can you see that? Let me just switch it off just to prove that. Switch it off. Switch it back on again. Make sure the radio is turned on and the volume is all the way up. Now I am going to try to turn the voltage up a little bit slowly because I don't want to necessarily hit this radio with the full HT voltage. If you turn the voltage up fairly slowly from about 100 volts, the rectifier, in theory, the rectifier won't start working fully as a rectifier until it's got, you know, closer to 200 volts across it. So you can actually run the rectifier a little bit under voltage, run it a bit soft, and that might just give the electrolytics a little bit of time, a little bit of a chance to reform rather than just being hit with 300 volts of DC. Certainly that's the argument I'm making. I wouldn't necessarily believe me, but I'm just trying to convince myself that that's true. Okay, so we've got 113 volts on the radio, and it's drawing 4 watts at the moment, which is what I think this radio's rated at, actually. I think it is 4 watts. Okay, we're drawing 7 watts now, and we've got 140 volts on it, and our lamp limiter, our lamp is still not glowing at all there. Oh, and there is a little bit of hum coming from the radio now. Shall we put a bit more voltage on it? Okay, I've got 180 volts on the radio, and I can hear a little bit of a hum there. Simon says his lights are getting dimmer. Are they really, Simon? I'm wondering if we need an antenna on this thing. Let's see if we can bodge in an antenna wire of some description. So it looks like the one on the left here is the aerial socket. We got something then, didn't we? I think we need a component leg or something to jam in there.
Bradford, Huddersfield, Halifax and Wakefield, but you will need to use a different frequency in some places. In Keighley and Airedale, find us on 102.7 FM, or in Wharfdale, 95.3 FM, and in Westley.
Okay, so the radio's got 180 volts on it at the moment. Let's take it up to closer to 200, and maybe we'll stop about there.
Look for BBC radio.
Let's see what we can tune in.
BBC leads in the station list. Digital radio is where. it had a computer, tablet or smartphone. I think everybody like us is a little bit shaken at the moment as we wait for news on the condition of Christian Eriksen. The game between Denmark and Finland at the Parken Stadium has been suspended after he collapsed during the first half. Let's bring in our commentator, Vicky Sparks. Vicky, just remind us.
Oh dear, it sounds like somebody at a football match has been taken ill, maybe one of the players.
Copenhagen just before half-time, when the Denmark midfielder Christian Eriksen collapsed as a teammate was taking a throw-in. The medical staff were brought on very quickly. Eriksen received treatment on the pitch for an extended period of time. It was clearly a very distressing moment inside the stadium, which fell very quiet very quickly. It became apparent very quickly that what had seemed innocuous was in fact a very serious situation. The Danish player
being inside the stadium, what Christian Eriksen's teammates and his family who came off the pitch at the end there saw, what the Finland players saw, and what David Conley and I saw, and I have to say both of us had tears in our eyes. It was a harrowing scene, and you know, we came into it buzzing, excited at covering our first match, the European Championship. It's what we all dream about, commentating at a major tournament, but all of that seems very pointless now, to be honest. And as David said time and again during the commentary on tour.
Oh dear, it sounds like something a bit nasty's happened there. Hopefully the chap will be okay. Somebody called Christian Eriksen. Oh, okay, they think he might have had a heart attack. Well, fingers crossed that he makes a recovery. Yeah, yeah, it sounds good. That's the annoying thing about valve radios. That's probably why I choose to repair valve radios, because even I can't destroy them. They are very, very hard to kill. So this radio, looking at the amount of dust and dirt in it, I suspect that this thing probably hasn't been powered up in 50 years, and it's it seems to be working fine. Now I can only tune in about 2 stations on medium wave here. That's just how it is here. That's, you know, most of medium wave sadly is just gone now, hasn't it? So I can tune a couple of like the Talk Spoke stations in. And I think that's literally about it. Let's just have another quick tune round.
Play it back, but it came off his knee, which was unusual. Suffered a cardiac arrest on the pitch, and at that time in Holland they didn't have ambulances there, and he suffered real irreparable damage. For a good 10-15 minutes I'm only guessing really to confirm the field.
Okay, so probably about 5 stations that we tuned in there on a medium wave, and yeah, them stations tuned in pretty much as well as any valve radio I've worked on, even ones that I've fully capped, restored, and aligned. This radio is actually working very well. Of course, for all I know, the electrolytics could be smouldering away in there. I doubt it though, because there's very little mains hum on it. Although I think my bulb is starting to glow just a little bit brighter here, which could indicate something is just starting to fail. Should we just try long wave, see if we can pick anything up? Well, it's definitely tuning.
Morning, God. It's just about kept out there by that strange thing. I was just taking a little look at it. Yep. Oh, yeah, completely done in the flight and everything there. Just stabbed it? Yes, stabbed it down. Got away with it. Patel into stone again, and he's aiming a sort of flashy cut come drive, and the ball spits and is taken well by Blundell. It absolutely spat out of what I guess is rough. Let's have a little look at the replay there.
So it sounds like we might have some golf. Is that golf on Radio 4? So it's pulling Radio 4 in beautifully.
The ground is exposing a lot of stumps here. It's not. It makes for easy watching and bolt. Fields at point 107 for 7 still. No run off that ball. Texture's in place.
Kieran goes down on his knees. It's an easy save for the conveyor man.
The lead now 22. So yes, just to finish on that.
Okay, so we're just pulling in a couple of stations on long wave. Just I think we'll turn that off. Okay, so this radio is working very well, amazingly well, isn't it? So I think probably, given that this was only meant to be a quick, hour-long unboxing, I wasn't planning on actually bringing up any radios today. I think we've probably done more than I expected to, so maybe that's a good place to end it today. Is that you say that's cricket on the radio? Is that cricket? Cricket on the radio, almost as exciting as watching painter. Oh, I think cricket is fantastic to listen to on Radio 4. I mean, it's not about the cricket. It's just listening to the commentators. They are quite funny. Can you get RTE? I've got no idea, Simon. I don't know. Where's RTE? Is that long wave or medium wave? I don't know. Do you want to have a tune round long wave again? It's on long wave, Simon says.
What I think was the impediment there to a successful appeal.
Yeah, it must have hit it outside the line as well.
Yeah, nothing was going for that. Huge, yes. Well, I mean, bad, really. Sort of legit.
Got a French station there.
It is just truly remarkable. And Tyrone had no answer to this carry forward machine with goals by Darren Moynihan. David Clifford has scored a goal and 4 points. Sean O'Shea with 3 points. Paul Geaney from Dingle with 2 goals and a point. And Gavin White with a goal as well. Meanwhile,
well, that sounds like an Irish accent.
laying it off quickly as they try and open up a gap. Taking another shot blocked as there is a wall of green and gold jerseys in front of.
Could that be RTE? I don't know.
Richard Donnelly would score and Kerry going to the counter attack. Sean O'Shea laying it off. Good hands. Over past Darren Moynihan's second attempt. Guy Morgan is back.
Yeah, so Simon says that is RTE. That's coming in loud and clear for me. Although it looks as though it's closer to 200 than 250 on my radio dial here. Used to be Atlantic 252.
They're taking the options that when instead of knocking over the ball and taking their points, they're trying to.
Certainly, it's coming in very loud and clear.
The defenders are swallowing it up, and as a result.
And then Australia were 21 for 9 many years later against South Africa until a last wicket partnership of, I think, 26.
Yeah, it wasn't. I said golf, didn't I? No, of course it's cricket.
Now I think it would be rather difficult if England were batting.
God, that pulls in Radio 4 absolutely beautifully.
You'd see them to get those runs, wouldn't it?
Hand passing the ball to each other. Jim O'Connor kick passes it over as Kerry go forward for past their own 45, past the 65. Now they give it long, aiming for Tommy Walsh. Good hands, first grab, and it continued on. There was a challenge there.
Yeah, that works perfectly, doesn't it? Okay, so that's bringing in, if that's correct from what Simon said, that's bringing in RTE and Radio 4. It's pulling them stations in absolutely beautiful, so there's no problem there, is there? Sean's saying that the waxes are starting to melt like candles. Yeah, you're probably right. You are probably right. And what we will do is at some future video, we will maybe go through this and change out those waxes. I am starting to think, though, the thing about doing valve radio restoration, stuff like that, is I kind of think there's only so many waxy capacitors you can watch me changing out, because it's not exactly riveting. I mean, you know that if you work on valve radios like this, you just know that the wax capacitors, they are going to be bad. It's not like you're making some wonderful discovery and some wonderful diagnosis. You know the waxes are going to be bad. They're going to be leaky, and they are going to need changing out. And because if you don't change them out, the set won't perform quite as well as it should, although this does seem to be performing very well. But you know, they're kind of an accident waiting to happen. If they haven't gone short circuit when you power it on, they probably will do at some point in the near future. So these waxy capacitors, they really should be changed out on site. And of course, that's what we'll be doing on this. But as I said, I think that's probably a logical place to leave it today, isn't it? In that, okay, we've got a 1-0, one radio that is dead. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it working, and one radio that didn't require any work whatsoever. We just powered it up and it worked. So I think it's time to quit while we're ahead. So thanks for everybody for joining today, and thanks for joining me for this impromptu live stream. I'm trying not to do too many of them. Maybe we'll try and do 1 or maybe 2 a month. I'm kind of thinking that's more than enough. There is some more videos on the way. I did power up the television, and there was a little bit of life from it without spoiling the whole story. So for those of you that watch the live stream for the Murphy television, that Murphy television should be coming up. A little bit of video that I put together, that should be coming up in the next few weeks, or the next week. I'll upload that video, and you can see how I got on with the television, and hopefully we'll do some more work on that television in the future. But again, sadly, it just comes back to changing some waxy capacitors. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Nick Petronics, and Mike and David and Graham, Simon, Andrew. This is where I should say, and is it where I say Driver Film Shortwave? This is where I say and ZX Harvey. So thanks very much for everybody watching and everybody that knows me. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. Hope to see you again very soon. But until then, that'll do. Bye-bye for now. See you, everybody. Where's the off button? Bye.